it's Chloe Demare of Save the Victory Roll. How's everybody doing today? Amazing, I hope. It is another video from your older than average YouTuber here on the YouTubes. And it is Monday by the decade, and we are up to 1940. So if you want to know a little bit about the makeup of the 1940s and the look we create, you're in the right place. And you know what you need to do? You need to keep on watching. So here we are, 1940. So we're going to talk a little bit about the makeup of the 1940s, a little bit of history of it. Then we are going to do a look. I have done my hair. I just recently cut it into a butterfly cut. Thanks, Brad Mondo. And it's the first time I've tried to play with anything other than a roll set. So trying to get used to, again, having shorter bangs and a little bit of layers. I didn't do it really heavy, but some layers. This is as good as you're getting today. Alrighty, so let's put our glasses on and we are going to go yet again to Glamour Days. They are an amazing channel on YouTube. They've got a website. You can buy PDFs on the different makeup styles. They show old videos from history regarding how to make makeup, putting on makeup, vintage clothes, vintage hats, just seen from life through the decades. It's an amazing resource, and it's a channel that I really like. So I've been getting most of my information from them. I mean, some information I know, but it's nice to have it just from one source. So if you want to find it, you can go and look as well. So thanks again to Glamour Days. So as the 1930s came to a close, the 1940s women makeup industry was massive. As you can tell, from the minute we were able to put color on our face, we were on it, and it is still popular today, maybe even more so. The amount of brands is insane. But they had brands like Coty and Tangy, and they were becoming major rivals to cosmetic brands like Max Factor, Helena Rubinstein, Maybelline, Elizabeth Arden, and Dorothy Gray. And then even another world war wasn't going to halt the advance of women's fashions in the 1940s. I've got I've got quite a few of them. This is my one in ode to, did I get on there? To Agent Carter, but I do have some 1940s sweaters by Ains and Elke Stylehouse. She sells them on her website. She does make specialty ones as well. I don't know what she's up to these days because I am not on Facebook, where I think she is most active, but definitely she does have a website. Check out Ains and Elke. Alrighty, so the 1940s was a look all to her own. Confident updo hairstyles, redder than red lipstick, and nails and prominent arched eyebrows. Lipsticks in the 1940s were red all the way, and while there were countless shades to choose from, the final objective of any 1940s woman was prominent red lips. Replacing the thin, understated lip contours of the 1930s was a deep, luscious, full mouth. So the 1940s makeup products. The leading purveyor of vintage style makeup for the 1940s is Besame Cosmetics. So if you're looking for makeups that are historically correct, she takes from samples and lipsticks that she has bought from the time, and then she remakes them. The 1940s era lipsticks are simple but beautiful, and which is a color we will be talking about, using some Besame today. The 1940s beauty guys encouraged women to use a pencil to draw an outline outside their natural lips to enlarge her mouth. As lipsticks were matte, Vaseline was used to add a little luster and gloss. The eyebrows were now simply kept well and groomed. My favorite. A girl lavished love on her brows and lashes, and many handy homemade hints were followed to give a girl a bright sparkle. Max Factor's Pancake Foundation, which appeared in the late 1930s, had many imitations but was largely popular during the war because of its handiness. Powder compacts had replaced the messy loose powder of the 1920s and 30s. We will be using a Besame loose powder. I do have a compact one somewhere, but makeup had to be on the go for women, many of whom found themselves working in very unfeminine conditions. Munitions, aircraft factories on both sides of the Atlantic. These gorgeous vintage compacts are as much sought after now by collectors. I probably 8 or 9 of them. 1940s rouges were often in short supply in Britain and Europe, so many women simply used their lipstick to rouge and contour their faces. Another phenomenon of the 1940s were liquid or cosmetic stockings, seams and all, which came about from the shortage of silk and new nylon. In the US, there was quite a choice of cosmetic stockings to play with, all boasting long life and waterproof. In the UK, women had Miner's makeup liquid stocking, if you could afford it. For many, it wasn't so glamorous. Only the lucky and wealthier few had access to either nylons or the cosmetic equivalent. Many working class girls used products from the kitchen like Bovril and tea to give a look of stockings. Crazy, but what do you do? While there's a popular retro pinup look stylized by the likes of Dita Von Teese, I loved doing pinup, and these were some of the looks I too used as reference. But it is not an accurate depiction of the 1940s look. Another thing is, every time we see a lot, especially professional pinups that do this really for a living, or in all the magazines modeling for retro makeup companies and clothes companies, the hair is always smooth and perfect. But when you really look at a lot of the photos, they are more like this, where your hair is a little bit more fuzzy. It could be healthy, but it wasn't always. And I'll show some pictures as well of some different hair and makeup looks. And then you'll see it wasn't always this slick picture perfect. Redder than red lips made up for many a tired girl. In fact, lipsticks were considered in the USA as essential to the war effort. It's keep morale up. So your foundation was a shade darker than your natural. Powder, plenty of powder still, a lighter shade and patted on. Eyes light medium browns with beige highlighting, understated. Eyebrows much thicker than in the 1930s. Vaseline used to groom to shape. We will be using a pomade instead. I don't think I own any Vaseline, but here we are. Lips, red and orange reds were the prerequisite. Lashes, cake mascara, still applied with a brush. Rouge, rose colors applied out from the cheek apples, and nails filed to a point with the tips left unpainted. Well, I'm not filing them to a point because I don't have enough, but they are unpainted. Alrighty, so a little bit more history here. Despite war rationing, women began using makeup from the teens onwards. Just 20 years before, this would have been unthinkable. Women were encouraged to keep buying lipstick and to send letters to the front covered in lipstick kisses to boost the morale of the soldiers. In a 1942 beauty article in Click magazine, women were reassured that if Uncle Sam needed your lipstick or shaving mug or bombs or bullets, he'd have gotten it first. It was considered by the U.S. War Production Board that the materials used for cosmetics in a package was considered non-essential to the war effort and confirmed to their limitation guidelines. Not only that, but declaring makeup to be necessary and vital to the U.S. war effort. So happy days to American glamour. However, women were encouraged to bulk buy in case of shortages. Developing new makeup products, though, were forbidden under WBP limitations. It says here, in Britain, the Board of Trade's rationing was much more severe. Even basic soaps were scarce and therefore considered essential for hospitals, etc. Makeup was not rationed in the UK, but was extremely scarce, so women had to make do sometimes with homemade efforts. Alrighty, so last but not least here, notable new cosmetics brands to appear in the 1940s include Aziza Eye Cosmetics, 1940, Estee Lauder, 1946, Gala of London Incorporates, 1946, Guillermo de Orano, Husabish Orlan, okay, there we go, 1946, Allure Cosmetics, 1947, Hazel Bishop, 1948, and Jacqueline Cochran Incorporates. So there we go, a little bit of me babbling through. So of course, I'm going to show a couple pictures here, and of course I'm going to show my favorite actress of all time, Lucille Obal. So here's her painting on a beautiful red lip, holding onto a beautiful compact. Isn't she just stunning with her beautiful arched brows? I love Lucy. And the second picture is kind of almost like one of my favorite looks of hers, but it's taking the victory rolls and curls and having them in an updo and almost like a poodle, like almost like a partial poodle Victory Roll extravaganza. I think it's really gorgeous here. The poodle is actually my favorite updo. Before I learned how to do them, when I used to do pinup photo shoots, I mean, if I remember, I'll pop up a few photos. One of my favorite things to ask for was a poodle updo, but now I learned how to do them so I can do them when I want. And plus I don't really shoot anymore. The panini stopped a lot of things in my life. And then here's another photo here, just seeing again how hair wasn't always perfect. It wasn't always super shiny and coiffed. It would have a little flyaways and a little bit of a frizz. So there we go. And then you can see very red lips in all three of these photos, a very beige eyes, a little bit lighter and highlighted near the brow, a little bit of rouge, and beautifully done up lips. So I think that's what we're going to do today, but we are going to do a full face again today. So the products for mascara, we're going to be using the Besame Cake again. For powder, we're going to be using the Besame Translucent French Vanilla Powder. So many words hard today. For lipstick, it is the Besame Victory Red. So this was based on one of the most popular colors of the 1940s. And there we go. I love this shade. And then my favorite is Besame Red. This is my second favorite in the collection. Again, we're going to be using the Guilty Cosmetics little pomade there for our brows. And because I've been really liking it, we're going to use some Tear for our foundation. For blush, I had these lent to me from Martha. So I'm going to be, because I love P. Louise blushes. I always say brushes, but it's blushes. Don't know why, can't stop. It's like at work, I always type Climb instead of Claim. I've been doing it for 13 years, can't stop. So P. Louise, a Frozen Flush blush. I have to get one of their blush palettes. I have a few of the liquid ones, but their powder formula is freaking amazing. Theirs and Trixie Cosmetics, I love them so much for their powder. And then we've got the matching palette again, because we do have some bronzy colors here and a little bit of shimmer. And then if we want to add a little shimmer to our lip, instead of using Vaseline, maybe we can use one of these. Alrighty, so we are going to, because I don't really suffer fallout with these unless I'm using a black from P. Louise, I think we can start with a base. So though this wasn't a thing back in the day, if I'm wearing makeup, I will always have a primer on. It's funny, people either love primers or they hate primers, or they say that they don't do anything. I really do find that a good primer does make makeup last longer. At least it does for me. This one here from ZZ Cosmetics is one to bring down a little bit of redness. I really like this one. I'm going to repurchase this one for sure. I have another one of their primers that I need to test, but I really do like this one. And there's a few others that I like. I usually like a silicone primer best. The one by the Balm, Time Balm is my favorite. I have one of those on deck that I got in an ice cream box. But anyways, for me, I find that they are very useful and they do really well. And then again, I'm not doing a special video on it, but I do have the Tear foundation. I think I used that in either I used it for my 1930s look or I used it for something. But anyways, we're going to do it again. This is in Neutral 17, or 17 and Vanilla, as they like to call it. So this is a very fun thing. And again, it wouldn't be time specific, but I also don't, this one is I think a little bit darker, but I wasn't going to open my one foundation that I know is about a shade darker than me. Again, not going to use concealer or anything because that wasn't part of the day. Oh, and then I was going to bring a powder brush. I forgot, so I'm just going to use my blush brush for now. Oh, no, they said they patted it on. Good. I have a little poof in here, so let's do that. So they said they patted on their powder. Besame was having an interesting thing. Spend, I think it was $50 or $60 and get a free cold cream. Oh my god, I love cold cream. I so wanted to find something to buy just so I could do the cold cream. But I was good. I'm on basically a no-buy. This was the first thing I bought since January, so not too shabby for me. Now, should I do, let's do brows then, because it's always nicer to have your brows done before you do eyes, have them kind of out of the way. I think more of a 1940s brow, or like if that, here I'll pop it again, that Lucy photo, I think is kind of my favorite style of brow. All right, I think that's a little bit better. I'll brush it again when it's a bit dry. So we will leave cheeks and lips till the end. Let's do our eyes. Yes, I know. Right, there we go. So we've got, again, we're going to use these neutral ones here. So I think for the outer corner, we are going to keep it simple. We're not going to do it too dark. We're going to do it kind of light how they have them. But I'm going to start with the shade called You're My Pud. And I'm going to put that on the outside of our eyes. I'm going to get myself a little floofy brush here. That's a nice shade. Do you have a favorite decade in fashion and makeup? I started really, like when I started getting into pinup, I think it was because it was starting to be all over Facebook, and then I met some girls on Facebook. I got really interested in pinup, so I started really the 1940s thing. I really did pinup. I learned how to do, when did I do that? For around my 40th birthday, I learned how to do, finally by watching lots of YouTube videos, and I think YouTube too was another one that I just was seeing all these influencers who then I saw on Facebook and vice versa do looks. And then I did for my 45th birthday my first set of victory rolls, but I did them backwards. But I was still so happy I got something to work. It was a left-handed thing. It took forever for me to find somebody who used to go by the name of Kawaii Mama. I think she's changed her name if she's still in doing it. And she had a video on how to do victory rolls if you're left-handed and saved my life. So now I can do them not backwards. So I'll always be thankful to that YouTuber for that. So there we go. This is what's going to be our darkest shade. Again, because most of them looked pretty just like one or two shades kind of smoked out. So let's do that. And then we're going to go into the lightest shade of the beiges in here. This one is called Treat Yourself. So that's that one there. So we're going to do that up front. And it's funny, I always thought, same too, as I was learning, and again, that like 1940s started as my favorite style, but I always loved doing the winged eyeliner look, but that really wasn't a, really what you saw a lot. You did like Hollywood, I saw some photos, but when you look at a lot of natural photos, they didn't really have an eyeliner on. I think it was more 1950s. And I think a lot of retro stuff is kind of a mix with a 50s and 1940s. And then as I was getting into things, 1940s, then you know, trying different clothing brands, was into the 1950s. I mean, I like all the decades, basically 50s and backwards. But I found that 1930s, the aesthetic of hair and clothes was really my ultimate favorite. But what suits me, I think, more is probably more than I can get away with more my modern figure with 1940s. But that doesn't stop me from having some vintage 1920s and 1930s stuff in my closet, which I'm worried some of it doesn't fit. Damn you, menopause. Alrighty, so there we go. Got that here. And then I want to see in the photos, again, I always double check, because I used to never do makeup with on my lash line, but I'm seeing that even back then, the gals had, okay, Hedy Lamarr didn't, but Lucy did. So I'm going to go with Lucy, though I love this picture of Hedy Lamarr, though. Okay, so there we go. So we're going to put a little bit on our bottom lash line, and then we are going to think about the highlighting in a beige tone. I'm going to use actually the shade that I used on my brow, the Cinnamon Spice on the bottom. So it's kind of like a mix between the two browns. And some of my favorite classic movies are 30s and 40s, like a lot of the Cary Grant movies from the 1930s. There we go. So now they said that they highlighted in beige. And then looking at both the photos, they do look, I'll pop them again here. They also both look super neutral, that there isn't any kind of shine to them. Yeah, it just looks like they just added a little bit of a lighter shade on there. I put it onto my hand with a floofy brush, and then just kind of really pat it out so we just get a little bit of the color. And then we will just put on the top there a little bit, bring that up just a smidge. So it's almost like bringing a little bit of that color there, but just a little bit. So there we go. And just for a twinkle for me, I'm going to take a little bit of this highlighter here, and I'm going to put that in my inner corner. They did use a little highlight, but they usually just used matte white, I believe. Maybe some highlights, but a little sparkle. There we go, just a little cheap. A modern gal. Alrighty, so let's do our blush. And we're going to do a beautiful lip. So they were saying a reddish shade, so I'm going to go with this one. They don't have names on it, so I'm going to go with the darkest one here. And then they were saying from the apples out, so we're going to pop into there. Ooh, that's really pretty. I guess I could have used one of my balmy blushes. See, blush, here I go again. I'm going to use this one, and then we will just carefully blend it out so it isn't too crazy. Okay, so place the color. I do like a blushy blush. I'm going to clean off my brush here really good, and then we're going to blend it really well. Let's see. Yeah, Lucy's is pretty. Hers is a little bit more angly than the description for the 1940s, but we will drag it up. Of course, we don't have the same face shape or anything, so there we go. We've got our rosy cheek on. So now let's do a lip. So I have a lip liner here. This is from, who is this from? Oh, this is from Melt. It's more than I think like an orangey red, but I think that should still work. Finally figured out my one lip sharpener, how to empty it and get it to sharpen really good. I've been on such a hunt to find a good sharpener. So I went right just along the bottom edge outside of my natural lips. So there we go. I'm not going to color it in like I normally do because I want to make sure this stays our beautiful red. So again, this is the Besame Victory Red. Add this back into my rotation. I'm finding recently if I go out and I know I'm going to eat, having a neutral is easier because if you get on your chin, it's easier to clean off than a bright red, but here we are. I think I mentioned this in a video before. I do like that they have a built-in liner onto the lipstick. Like the shape of it is to mimic a liner. And there we go. Oops. We're doing pretty good there. Okay, we're going to do one more coat. I think my Besame red is a little bit darker. And there we go, another coat. So, and then last up, let's do a little mascara now that we are all done. So again, this is the Besame Cake Mascara, like so. And usually you can spray a little water. I'll use a little setting spray. Try not to do too much because I keep trying to blind myself with these. All right, so now I know why I don't use this one very much. Always gets in my eyeballs. But anyway, so there we go. So while I love Besame, I like the one in the tube better. So there we go. Oh, my other lipstick trick. So you don't get on your teeth. Alrighty, and then I'm going to quickly, I grabbed my other brush, and I'm going to quickly smooth the brow. So there we go. 1940s makeup look complete, hair done, and there we go. What do we think? Yes, I am no Lucille Ball, no Hedy Lamarr, but I think that's not a bad look. What do you think? Yes? No? Maybe so? Alrighty, well that's it for me today. That was the 1940s. So if you like this video, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe even hit that notification bell. If not, that's okay. We can still be friends, still play with makeup by the decade, and poke ourselves in the eye with a wand. Anyways, that's it for me. As always, behave, make good choices, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, that was a good look. Yeah. Bye.